Alrighty, welcome to the very first secret podcast episode for Patreon members only. So excited to have you here. I'm not sure if there's going to be 5 of you or 500. I feel like for at least the first couple weeks, there's not going to be that many of you, which is great, which is cool because as early adopters, as the first people to join my Patreon membership platform, I will be able to answer your questions directly, which is really cool. So even if it's just a couple dozen people in the beginning, I'll be able to get to as many of your questions, if not all of your questions, right away. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is at least one of these AMA podcast episodes every month. And the idea here is to field questions exclusively from Patreon subscribers. Now, obviously, I'm in a bit of a paradox here because the Patreon hasn't launched yet. I do not have any subscribers to field questions from. Therefore, these questions are all being pulled from Instagram. A lot of questions around filmmaking, minimalism, creativity, my process, and the mistakes that I've made. So I'm excited to dig deep into those. Of course, I want to first pause and just thank you guys so much for being Patreon subscribers, for believing in the content that I've made thus far for free that I've put out there. And the fact that you're contributing, that you're being a part of this is just so cool. I hope it works. I hope it grows. I hope that I'm able to get as much funding as I can to execute on some pretty crazy ideas. I'm just so excited about the future of my YouTube channel and really just the films that I'm going to be making in the future. If you think about what I did with minimalism and the kind of work that went into that, if you want to see behind the scenes, I have a free series on YouTube called Making Minimalism. It was just crazy. 2 years, 3 years of so much work. There were so many times when I thought I was going to fail, that I was going to give up. I wasn't going to be able to complete it. But the end result, by my surprise, was able to resonate and connected with people and helped a lot of people. So the time and energy that I put into making that thing, I want to do that again, but I want to do them on like 10 to 15 minute type films where I explore advertising in one, or maybe in another, I'm exploring what it takes to make meaningful content. Or maybe I'm traveling around the world and exploring tiny houses and simple homes. I want to go to Japan and talk about the new Japanese minimalism. So obviously minimalism is a very old idea and it's been around in Japan for a very long time, but talk about that new wave and the resurgence after 2010 with the Marie Kondo and everybody else who supplemented that movement. Really excited to see how different cultures are embracing minimalism. But to do that and to do it the right way, film is very expensive. I can do a lot of this myself. Travel is very expensive. But then if we want to do it right, it's having a crew, having a couple people being able to help out, whether that means an editor or bringing a filmmaker along with me to Japan to shoot this series. That would be fucking cool. That would be really exciting if it could get to that level where we're getting enough money. We'll see. It's a slow process, and I don't expect this to happen overnight, but I'm going to continue to produce these AMAs and the vlogs. And the idea is that I feel like a lot of people who create Patreon content, and I'm only just speaking from what I see from a glance, from a periphery, is that content isn't necessarily premium. It's not like as good as the stuff that you would put out publicly. My idea here is to try to make content that is just as good across the board. So you're not going to get a watered down version of my content here through the Patreon membership. You're going to be able to get just as high quality as what I would put out publicly on my YouTube channel. So that's the idea. And again, just excited for you guys to be here, excited to get into it, and also having the opportunity to be a little bit more unedited, not worry about as much as what I say. I tend to say like stupid things or things that I regret when I'm spitting off the cuff. I'm not a rapper, but okay, let's just get into it. Let's not waste any more of your time because we've got questions. And I've got what my friend Josh likes to call attempted answers. So I'll see if I can do my best here. This is Patreon AMA number 1. I got a question from Jacob Hopkins. Besides the success of minimalism, what was a pivotal moment that took you to the next level? As a filmmaker in my early 20s, I've successfully been able to freelance full-time and work on some interesting projects, but I'm really trying to push myself to that next level. Considering moving to LA just looking for advice on how to go from good to great. Jacob, that's a fantastic question. Going from good to great. That's one of those processes that takes a very long time, and there's not necessarily moments that make you go from good to great, but there are decisions along the way that will get you there. Of course, the decisions that we make in our lives, especially those big moments when we're deciding to leave our job and pursue a freelance career full time, or if we're looking to drop out of school, or if we're looking to go to college. These are big questions that radically shift and have a ripple domino effect throughout your entire life. So maybe that's what you're talking about when you're talking about moments. And there were definitely a few for me. The first one was that very early on, I decided to lean into what I was passionate about, which was filmmaking. So I was always interested in it as a kid. I would always shoot these VHS horror movies with my siblings, and I just remember that being so much fun. And there was no YouTube at the time, so I wasn't necessarily creating for anybody but my friends and those that made it with me and my family and maybe some kids at school. But it was an opportunity to explore and create and just have fun and be a little bit weird and try to actually get a response out of people. But I remember very early on being very passionate about it. So in high school, I just decided to pursue that, and I took all the video classes that they had and just threw myself into it completely. At the time, I remember a couple people telling me that it probably wasn't possible to make a good living as a filmmaker, that there weren't that many jobs out there, that it was probably better to get an engineering degree. I remember engineering, everybody was saying, you got to get structural engineering. That's going to be the best way to make a living in the future. And nobody, I think, foresaw what was going to happen with film and video and media and the internet and how crazy it got and how valuable it was to be able to be a creator online and to be a self-reliant creator. But that first decision was just lean into that passion, regardless of the outcome. And sometimes the outcome might not be there. Your passion might be rock climbing. There's very few people that can make a full-time living as a rock climber, but that's cool because that's still something that's going to fulfill you. But eventually you'll find some passions that are in alignment with monetary gain. You'll be able to make money for your passions. But first, the first decision was just try to do what you love and don't waste your time doing bullshit jobs that you don't love. We all have to grind through the terrible jobs, and I can talk about it on future podcasts about working at a grocery store and working actually at Trump National Golf Course. I actually met Trump once or twice. These are stories that I'll get to. I'll have to make a note to get to these in the future where you guys can just hound me for those stories. But really it was more about, not wasting my time and making decisions that would affect future versions of myself in a positive way. I would say the second decision that was really instrumental for me, a lot of people might see this as a step backwards, but it was after graduating college, I moved back home to live with my parents, literally lived in my parents' basement. I think my younger siblings all lived at home at the time. So there was 4 younger siblings living at home with me. And it was not at the moment the best. It was the best decision, but it didn't feel like the best decision. It felt like a step back. But for me, this was really about short-term setback for long-term reward. I knew that I wouldn't be able to progress as a filmmaker in the way I wanted to if I kept grinding it out, barely paying my bills. And I had $100,000 in student loan debt that I had weighing over my head. So all those factors led to me moving home, which ended up being one of the best decisions I could ever do because it was safe. I knew that I only wanted to stay at home for 2 years max. And I think I just pushed that by 2 months. I ended up living at home for 2 years and 2 months. I was able to pay off around $50,000 to $60,000 worth of debt. I was able to build up my business and not have that stress of, am I going to be able to pay the bills next month? Because when you have that stress, you end up making very bad decisions. You end up taking jobs and gigs that you otherwise wouldn't. You end up not pushing yourself in terms of how much money you would charge a client because you're afraid that they're going to say no. So as backwards as that sounds, I encourage people to definitely take that short-term sacrifice, looking out into seeing that it's going to eventually lead to long-term gain. Another one of those decisions was my decision to film weddings. Again, not glamorous. I actually did really enjoy it in the beginning. I actually loved it. It was a lot of fun meeting the brides and grooms. I mean, I was super young. I'm at this point like 21 years old getting into wedding films. And the whole process was exciting and new, and I learned a lot, and there were a lot of mistakes that I made in how to communicate with clients, how to handle deadlines, how to juggle multiple projects at the same time. With weddings, you have maybe, you'll do 15 or 20 weddings in a summer. That's a lot of people to keep track of. It's a lot of weddings to organize, to make sure you're hitting all your deadlines, and to make sure that you have everything logistically planned, that you don't go to the wrong church. That would be very bad. I've never actually had that happen. There's a neurosis, I think, that I have that prevents me from ever making a horrible mistake like that, although I've certainly had ones close enough. I do remember one wedding. I was working for a friend who I was shooting one of his wedding videos, and I plugged into my GPS the day before. He didn't give me the exact, he gave me the name of the church, but not the address, which was his fault. But again, I've said this many times, you always have to take full responsibility for yourself. So I should have just made sure he gave me the actual address. I plugged it in the GPS. It said 1 hour to get there the night before. And then the day of, I plugged it in my GPS, and apparently I'd gotten the wrong church. I realized I'd gotten the wrong church because it was coming up in the wrong town, and it ended up being 1 hour and 45 minutes away. That meant that I was going to be 20 minutes late for this wedding. And they had, the bride and groom wanted to save as much money as possible, so they had the videographer scheduled to come in at the, say, 12 o'clock, at the right when the wedding was about to start. And that led to a serious crisis and a serious dilemma where I'm calling my friend who had set up this whole wedding, who was producing the wedding. It was under his production company. And just a mad scramble to find somebody to come and help and shoot it in the very beginning. We eventually got somebody to fly down the highway, and I was flying myself, trying to get there as quick as possible. I ended up being 15 minutes late to the wedding. Somebody was there to capture that first part of it. The bride walking down the aisle. Imagine if I missed that. So yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot from doing these projects that might not seem glamorous, but you have to take them seriously. You have to treat them as if this is the biggest thing in the world, because your clients, they should mean everything to you, and delivering for them and making sure you are executing and giving them what they want and something that they will love and hold on to for the rest of their lives. That really is a big deal. So I do think you should take it seriously. So doing weddings, though, it allowed me to make some money early on. That allowed me to pay off my debt. That gave me some freedom, like now, where I can do this thing where I can try to, make a living through Patreon subscriptions. So, yeah, and don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to take risks. You make the smart and careful decisions in life, so that way when the opportunity comes and you're ready for it, you can do the most absurd risks of your life. And I think about that a lot. I think a lot about sometimes I'm like, what did I do? So I was legit making really good money as a freelance filmmaker. I was, my best year, I think I made over $300,000 revenue. I think profit, my best year was $150 to $175 or so. When I started doing bigger budget stuff, It was like 50%, of my budget would go into paying for crew, paying for gear. I would upgrade gear and get, better equipment, which was definitely, I think, a good decision. But I was making good money, man. And it was great. Like, if I kept on that path for 5 to 10 years, I would be sitting very, very well. I would have lots and lots of savings. I'd probably be able to buy a house. But then I had to follow my heart. I had to follow what I was truly passionate about and where I saw my future going. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really loved making these videos, and it was truly fulfilling for these clients, but I knew that there was something else missing. There was this lane that was just nagging, and like it was poking me, saying like, dude, like, are you ever going to do it? Are you ever going to try to make a podcast? Are you ever going to try to, start a YouTube channel and build an audience and have some self-reliance on this thing? Or are you always going to be relying on clients and other people? And there is some stress and anxiety that comes with working with clients, and it was just nagging at me. And I think back to it, I'm like, I can't believe I did. I can't believe I left, because it was safe, it was secure. And then you're faced with all these fears of, well, I give this up, then am I ever going to be able to get new work? Is like, if I need to go back to wedding films or whatever, am I going to actually be able to build that up, or would it be like starting from scratch? So there's a lot of fear and anxieties around that. And I'm just so glad that I was in a position where I had my debts paid off. I had security and safety. I had 6 months at least of expenses saved up, that I was able to say, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. Let's take a risk. Let's throw it all out there and start over and try this podcasting thing. And actually, just a couple weeks ago, we broke 1 million downloads on the podcast, which I can show, maybe even I'll do this on through Patreon too. I could actually show it in one of the vlogs coming up, is the breakdown of my stats. And in the first 7 months or so, it was like 3,000 downloads a month, which I was happy about. That was cool. That was great. Like, it was really cool, especially starting from nothing to be able to build up to 3,000 a month. But there was zero growth at all. And that's 6 months, 7 months of being like, is this going to work? Like, no, it's not growing at all. It's just plateaued. It's just nothing. So you have a lot of doubts. And then the fact that we just broke 1 million downloads is mind-blowing to me, and it's so fucking cool. I'm so excited about that, and I'm excited that people are getting value out of it, and that there are episodes. It's just cool to see people who even comment on or take a screenshot of an episode I recorded 10 weeks ago and be like, hey, this really, helped me out. So cool. Anyway, I think I'm going off on a tangent here. That was a long first question. We're only going to answer 4 questions on this podcast. But let's do another one here. This is Ryan Holden. Is there anything you got rid of that you now miss, or bought that was a convenience, or brought you a convenience you wish you had? Or is there a new want that you've recently been struggling to justify? Okay, I got to burp. This is the problem with seltzer. I love that LaCroix. This is not a sponsored post. I love that seltzer water, but damn, man, it makes you burp. Okay, so is there anything that you got rid of that you now miss? Okay, let's go back to like when I first became a minimalist, and this was probably in 2010. And I was very quick to get rid of stuff, and I can say now that I do not miss anything that I got rid of. However, looking back, I remember getting rid of maybe 1 yearbook. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so I was only allowed, we were only allowed to, as a family, get 1 yearbook a year. I'm not joking. This is a real thing. So we were only allowed to get 1 yearbook as a family, and I was always the youngest out of the older 3. So there was like the older 3, and then there was 4 years from me to my younger sister, Megan. So Michelle got the yearbook. This is so unfair now that I think about it. Like, Michelle got the yearbook for most of her, she got every single year. And then when it was like in middle school, it was just Mark. He would get the yearbook. And then Michelle was out of high school. And then Mark got the last 2 years of the yearbook. I got the yearbook for 1 year. It was my senior year. Maybe I got it my junior year too. but totally unfair because everybody at the end of class is like signing each other's yearbooks and being like, you know, hey, Matt, you're awesome, blah, blah, blah. But I remember I would go around with a napkin. This is not a joke. This really makes me sound poor, but I would go around and people would sign a fucking napkin and saying like, hey, Matt, like this year was so rad. But I did have 1 year where I got a yearbook, and I remember getting rid of that. I don't miss it. But I wish I did take photos of it because I know that if I saw those photos, it would be cool. It'd be like, I don't know, it would be nostalgic. It would fill you with warm, fuzzy feelings. But not having it to me isn't a problem. I certainly have lots and lots of other stuff. And now I try to save digital files, and I try to take videos and photos of even just everyday life, like hanging out with Natalie, because when we see the videos of our first couple like months of dating, it's just so cool to look back on that. It does fill you with good feelings. And you know, when your parents are gone, when you know you're growing up and you don't spend as much time with your siblings or your friends from high school, it would be really cool to be able to look back at some videos and to remember the good times. I think so if I could do one thing, if I would have done it differently, I would have taken photos of the things that had a real sentimental connection with me. Today, I do have a few sentimental items. I've got a coffee mug. I've got a bowl like that were my grandparents, and maybe one or two things here and there. I can't remember, but I don't mind having sentimental items. The thing about it is that when everything is a sentimental item, nothing is a sentimental item. When you care about everything, you actually care about nothing. You need to, that's why it's nice to have a couple of these things that like every time I hold it or I look at it, it gives me a feeling, a warm feeling. It's filled with memories, and that's always a nice thing to have. But yeah, I wish I had done it. I actually have a podcast coming out next week. No, it's in 2 weeks with Todd Glass, the comedian Todd Glass. Keep that a secret. That's I'm really excited about that podcast. But Todd Glass, like he gives his 2 mantras for minimalism and letting go of stuff. He's actually a huge fan of the documentary, and then it ended up radically changing how he approached his life and the things that he has in his life. For those that don't know, Todd Glass is a comedian. He's got a Netflix special called Act Happy. He's like one of the funniest comedians. He's really good. You got to check out his special. So funny. He's super kind. That's a great podcast to look forward to. And is there anything else? Okay, let's go to the next one. Sebastian Tello, can you fill me in on the details of your workout routine? What, when, and how does minimalism impact it? All right, so my workout routine. I talked a little bit about this in the vlog, the first vlog that I posted. So the grind vlog number 1. And my workout routine, it actually, minimalism does influence it. I don't know if it's a direct correlation to minimalism or it's just how my workout routine has evolved naturally. But I generally work out one muscle group a day. So I'll do biceps. The next day I'll do chest. Then I'll do triceps. Then I'll do back. Then I'll do shoulders the next day and legs on the 6th day. And I'll usually work out around 5 days a week. So it's not the same muscle group every day. I just cycle it, and I keep actually track on my to-do list. My to-do list that has the same tasks as my business tasks, I will put on whatever muscle group I'm working out that day. Surprisingly, when you're working out that much and with that amount of frequency, you cannot remember what muscle group you worked out the day before. They all tend to blend together. You think back to your head, well, what was I working out yesterday? And then you try to, it's just, you can't remember because you're in a routine when you're working out, and like it's barely registered as a memory. So that's how I keep track of it. Doing one muscle group a day allows me to go to the gym more frequently, but for less period of time. So I'll do 2 to 3 workouts per muscle group on each day. Like biceps, I'll do like dumbbell curls, and then I'll do like hammer curls, or I'll do like the backwards curls with a dumbbell with a bar. Lots of different things. I try to mix it up when I'm hitting a wall. Lately, I've been doing a little bit more cardio because I got a bit of my belly is starting to pack on some weight, and it's not going away. Like, I've been into the gym for 2 months, and normally that's enough time to just like crush out that, and have a six pack. But because I've been working out for years and years, but it's not happening right now. So I feel that either I gotta improve my diet or I need to start doing a little bit of cardio every day. I do feel better. I feel more energized when I do more cardio, when I get my heart rate beating. But that's what I do with my workout, and I do it consistently every day. I try to do it in the afternoons so that way the gym's less crowded. Like living in LA and New York, oh my God, I can't even tell you. Unless you live there, you don't understand how crazy these gyms get during rush hour. And maybe I'm just like being naive, and like every gym probably gets busy, but I think it's just to another level in the city where you can't even fucking move. You're like bumping against other people. And the worst is like not being able to get to the machine that you want to get to. So that can be frustrating, but then that's one of those things, where the minimalist philosophy of letting go comes in. You're like, well, all right, this is life, and you're not always going to get your way. You have okay, I want to do X, Y, Z at the gym today. And then you come in, and then every single machine you want to use is taken. So you have to adapt and adjust in the moment and do things differently in order to still get a good workout in. But it's the days when you really don't want to go to the gym, when it's the last thing you want to do, when you really should go to the gym. And I don't think there's any excuse to not take 15 to 30 minutes to exercise every single day. There's no excuses worth. I mean, maybe there's one or two excuses. We can't be too extreme. You go to the hospital, your car breaks down, blah, blah, blah. But apart from that, I'm too busy doesn't count. That's the worst bullshit excuse you could come up with, because you actually do have time. And I understand that there's going to be moments when you're busy. I was busy today. I'm trying to launch this Patreon thing tomorrow, and I've got all these videos to make, and there's a lot that I have to do, and I knew that I'm probably going to be working late, probably going to be working weekends, but I still had to get that 30-minute workout in. It takes an hour out of my day to drive there, back, and get the workout in and shower and do all that. Then it is 100% worth it, because I'm going to feel better today, I'm going to feel better tomorrow, and then each day is going to lead into the next. And if I wasn't exercising, if I just let that completely drop away, I'm going to start feeling like shit. I'm not going to be as productive. So all these things add up, and that's why you really can't just look at like work life or personal life and that's it. Like, keep them separate. Everything influences the other, and your diet and your workout routine, they all are going to conspire to influence your work life, and vice versa. So if you're stressed out at work, if you're overwhelmed, if you're trying to do too much, then that's going to affect your personal life. So that's kind of my philosophy on working out. I try to keep it simple, and I try to go 5 to 6 days a week. I usually end at a little tag at the end of my workout with a protein shake. Lately I've been doing a vegan protein shake, which has been nice because it's a little bit, it doesn't fuck up my stomach as much as the dairy protein shakes that I have taken in the past. But yeah, I think it's, I could get more into that down the road, because I know when I first started working out in college, first of all, building the habit was the hardest thing. Building that 5 to 6 days every single week was the hardest thing to do. The learning of how many sets and how many reps should I be doing, and what kind of workouts, what's my form, everything that goes with working out properly was important, but that's just knowledge. That's stuff that you will pick up over time, and as long as you're being careful and taking it slow and not trying to... I think a lot of times we have this bravado, especially men, that we need to work out, we got to lift the heaviest weights right away, and like, it's all relative. It doesn't fucking matter if you're lifting like 30 pounds, if you're curling 30-pound weights today or 15 pounds. When I first started working out at the gym, like, I could probably 15-pound weights, 10-pound weights I could only curl. It's kind of crazy when you think back to it. Not to brag, but like 10 pounds, like that was like really hard. But it's about that progression and like building up over time and getting better. But you will, the information will fit in, and maybe you can have a couple personal trainer sessions. Maybe you can watch a couple videos about proper form and proper etiquette at the gym, but try to focus on building that routine. Try to focus going every day. And even if it's 10 to 15 minutes, it's going to be better than none. I got Lewis Davidson. Have you ever struggled with an addiction? And if so, How did you overcome it? That's a great question. I haven't had a serious... Some people tell me that I have like an addictive personality. Like when I first got into minimalism, it was like, I need to get rid of everything. I get so excited about it. Or if I read a book, I'm like, I got to implement everything in this book. It's going to change my life. Or if I watch a movie about firefighters, I'm like, now I got to be a firefighter. And I tend to just go all in with things. I just get very excited. And then usually that ends up dampering down. So it doesn't really like stick and become an addiction. I've definitely built unhealthy habits over the years. The only thing that really can be seen as an addiction would be to my phone, which is something that I get addicted to, and then I break it, and I get addicted to, and I break it. But I'm currently in a run of not being addicted at all. And this goes for just technology and like checking email and all that stuff. I would say that those are kind of in par to be the same thing. I actually... for the past couple of weeks, I only check email once a day for the most part. And so today I only checked email once, got into my inbox, got out, logged out, haven't been in since. I haven't checked Instagram today. Like, is that crazy? I used to be able to get a day without checking Instagram. It would just be this fucking, I gotta do it. I gotta check it. I gotta check it. And that's no way to live. That's definitely an addiction. How did I break it? That's the question. How did I overcome it? I don't know. No, I do know. So it started with me putting a limit on it. I had to be really constrained with it. I couldn't be like, well, I'll check email 5 times a day or 4 times a day. Like that's not going to cut it for me. So it was scheduling an hour a day. I can check so, this probably wouldn't work for any other like addiction, but I gave myself an hour a day. I can go as crazy as possible. I can go through YouTube. I can reply to as many comments as I can, Instagram, Gmail, and then go through, reply to every email that I possibly can within that period of time. And then I'm done. After an hour, I'm done. I set the timer, and then I will not respond to anybody like that. If I can't get to it, I can't get to it. And I mean, I'm very fortunate now that I've grown a little bit of an audience across some platforms, which is amazing. But you can't keep scaling up in terms of your communication. That's one of the cool things about the Patreon. It's like, hey, you guys are, paying for this. You're paying for a little bit more of an intimate connection with me. So that's one way that we can actually bridge that gap, and I can scale up a little bit. But for the most part with my social media, I'm like 1 hour a day, and that's it. And it takes about 2 weeks before that gnawing to get over that. But when you go to the grocery store and you're in line and your first thing, let me go pull out my phone because I'm in line because I can't wait for 1 minute. What I would do is even leave it in my car or leave my phone at home. And it actually got us into a bit of a predicament. We were up in, it's called Monterey. We were up there, Nat and I, and oh my God, this is so silly. I left my phone in the car because I was like, I don't feel like walking around with having my phone in my pocket and checking it and everything else that you would that comes with having your phone. I just wanted to spend some time with Nat and maybe take some photos, a little bit of video. And then she goes into a store, and I think it was Anthropologie. And I'm walking around with her a little bit, but then I get bored and I'm like, I'm just going to go sit outside on this bench. So I said, I'll be right outside around the corner. And then 45 minutes went by and I was still outside like a dog, like waiting at the door, like, oh, where is she going to be? And then I just go in and out. I'm looking in and out of the store. I'm like, where is she? And I'm like going in the dressing room and I'm like, it's getting weird. I'm like looking down I'm like, is that her feet? I don't think those are her feet. And then the person that was working in the store felt uncomfortable that I was in there looking at people's feet in the dressing room. And I ended up going back out. I didn't see her. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just go to the car and get my phone because I have no idea where she is. And it turns out she had left. I don't know why she would do that. Why would she just leave? She thought I was in a store somewhere. And then she left and went down the road to like go pick up our lunch. And then I go to the car and see like 8 missed calls. And she had been out for like 15 or 20 minutes. And That's the worst case scenario when it came to the phone. Not having my phone out in public. And we like 20 minutes, 30 minutes we wasted just like walking past each other. Not that bad, but now also now we set rules like, all right, I will make it very clear where I'm going to be. And if we get lost, let's meet at this location so we won't run into that problem again. But the phone addiction, it took a couple of weeks, but now I'm completely off of it. I don't have an urge to pick up my phone. I barely keep my phone on me. I have a podcast episode with Anthony Ongaro called Break the Twitch, where we delve into that. And let me find the episode numbers for you guys because I think that'll help. Break the Twitch. I thought it was called Break the Twitch. There we go. Oh no, it's called Minimize Distractions. So episode 55 of the podcast, if you want to like look into like cell phone addiction, that's a very good one. And A Guide to Getting Unstuck with Nate Green, episode 66. That's it. That's funny. 55 and 66. Check out those two episodes. Nate Green has what's called the nuclear option, which what he does is he has his girlfriend put the password on his phone. So she's the only one that can download apps. So he can't even download Instagram if he wanted to. And then every once in a while, if he's going on a trip and he needs email or Instagram, he'll have her download it and then he'll have it for a couple of days. But even he says like, all of a sudden, if he's traveling, he's in New York and he's like, downloads Instagram for a couple days to use and boom, he's just addicted to it. It's crazy what these things do to us. But there's definitely a way to get over it. It just takes some time and some patience and experimenting and trying to figure out what works for you. But yeah, it's a good question. And it's definitely something we're all facing together. Sean Marsalis. Do you have any client management software recommendations? That's a very business professional question. It's a good question, though. The one thing that comes to mind for me is Boomerang from Gmail. And this is an app that allows you to schedule emails to send out at any time you want in the future. The reason I really love this is because it helps me a lot with my podcast. So every time I have a guest on the show, I want to share with them that their episode is going to be releasing the week of, and I want to share the teasers and promotion trailers in case they want to share it. I've never pressure them to share it. I always say, like, of course, like, you coming on the podcast alone is enough, but if you want to share, here you go. No pressure. I make that as clear as I possibly can. So that's one thing that I need. That sometimes it's like if I'm traveling and right now I've got 7 podcasts queued up, and I've got 7 emails queued up to email that person the day or two before the podcast airs with all the teasers, with all the content. And they're just scheduled to go out. I don't need to like think of that. That's one less task. That's something that, boom, it's off the table. And when I can batch all these tasks together at the same time, whether it's editing podcasts, publishing, creating the graphics, and then writing these emails and scheduling everything, I schedule the teasers, I schedule everything. That's what allows me to create because I'm so efficient, is because I can do all this stuff in one batch, push it all out there, and then now I've got 8 weeks of podcast content from literally everything you could possibly imagine. The only thing that I really have to do is you can't schedule Instagram video posts. So I do, or Instagram stories. So I do have them scheduled though in this app called Buffer. Maybe that's not client management, but I have them scheduled in Buffer, and it'll send a notification to my phone the morning of a podcast. I pull up my phone and then boom, I push each of them to Instagram from Buffer. And then all of a sudden I got those posts. So it actually requires, it removes all of the effort from me to remember and to go through this whole process. So that's hugely important. So Boomerang is cool. It also helped when I was working with clients, and like sometimes I would just, like an idiot, if you're young and you're dumb like I was, you will be working on projects at 3 a.m. because you didn't set the right deadline. And it's nice to not send that email at 3 a.m. and have your client thinking, oh, what the hell is wrong with this dude? Is he, like, he waited till the last second to get this video done, but then like scheduling it for 8 a.m. the next morning. And it makes you look like you got your shit together. It makes it look like, wow, he not only did he have the video done the day it was supposed to be done, but he was up at like 7 a.m. and like he must be an early riser, or maybe he has boomerang. This episode is brought to you by Not a Goddamn Thing, because of you beautiful patrons. Jason Zook, when will the penguin suit make a return? That's a damn good question, Jason. Jason is a very good friend, and he's going to be on the podcast next week. If you recall, there's been a couple videos where a penguin suit has been implemented, and I wrote this down because I was like, I'm totally going to get that penguin suit on and put it on. But I just don't feel like, I feel like I'm really enjoying this podcast in its like not wait around form where we can just keep talking and I don't need to edit any of this. So Jason, I will include that maybe on a vlog coming up. The penguin suit will make a return, but when will it make a return? Your guess is as good as mine. That's not true. My guess is better, but still, nonetheless. John Westlake, what do you like most about interpersonal connection? John, you robot. What do you like most about interpersonal connection? What do I like most about interpersonal connection? This is like some Westworld shit. John's gonna like come out from this computer screen and murder me. I think that people take themselves too goddamn seriously, and I understand that it's important to be serious sometimes, and I love having deep conversations with people, but I also just like to have fun, to just enjoy life and to not be stressed out and always complaining. You know, the complainers, the people, it's always something going wrong in your life, the complaining about every fucking thing. And it's like, just relax. Like, it's amazing that we are alive, that we are people with bodies and we can move around. It's amazing. So don't take it for granted and enjoy this shit. Enjoy the fact that we get to struggle. Enjoy the struggle. Enjoy sunsets, sunrises. Wake up early so you can actually see that shit. You're missing it if you're sleeping in all the time. Just wake up early and watch the sunrise. Just do it. If you've got doubt, if you're feeling like, I don't know what to do next, grab a camera, grab your phone, unless you're trying to not be addicted to it anymore, and go out and watch the sunrise. And just maybe play some music and watch it. That will fucking snap you back real quick and make you realize what's important. Jacob Jolly, do you have any color grading tips? And how do you find your own look? So that's cool. I'm going to do a couple more questions after Jacob's, and then we'll wrap this up. But question I get quite often, I guess people like my color grading, which is cool, which I guess here's the secret. I kind of know what I'm doing. Kind of. I also kind of have no fucking idea what I'm doing. There are so many people that are way better at color grading than me, and a lot of times I'll look back at videos I made like a week before, and I was like, what was I thinking? That was horribly graded. It's so oversaturated. And that's the weird thing about color grading, is that it's all about your perception. And we get very used to a certain clip. So something like if you got the color wrong when you first shot it, if like you shot out in daylight and you had a tungsten white balance, you watch it over and over and you just get used to the wrong color, you're not even gonna see it anymore. And that's the difficult thing, is that a lot of times you need to be able to see it with fresh eyes. You need to see it on different screens. You need to see it in different environments to figure out whether that's right. So that's one thing. Kind of poke around and understand that sometimes you're gonna screw up and you're gonna color something terribly wrong. I use LUTs from colorgradingcentral.com. That's where I just found a couple that work for me. They're kind of cool. It's got like the warm and the cool. It's a nice look. I kind of like it, but it's just playing around, and there's really only one LUT that I use, and I'm like, that's cool. I can use that for every video. Maybe that's a minimalist approach to it as well. But the fact that I don't know, that's the problem, is that I know that there are people that like know about this way better than me and would say, dude, you're giving horrible advice. But I feel like that just works fine for me, that nobody really cares. Certainly depends what you're doing. If you're working on a Hollywood film, I wouldn't recommend you just copy and paste a LUT. But if you're making YouTube videos and you want a consistent look, I don't think that there's anything wrong with just finding a LUT that works for you, which is just like basically a color type filter that you put on top of it for those that are not filmmakers. And, you know, tweak the darks and the lights a little bit and tweak the saturation to where it fits right. Boom. And then copy and paste that, paste it on all the clips, and then go through, adjust subtly on each of them where necessary, and then you're done. And then you export the video and you upload it. Don't waste too much time, especially if you're just getting started out. I mean, tweak, but then stop. Stop wasting your time. Upload the video and get to the next one. Alex Young, what can I do to get my documentary on Netflix once it's finished? Cross your fingers. Is that a thing? Pray? I don't know. It's no. Make it fucking good. Make the film amazing. Make this be put everything you have into this film. That's going to be your best shot to get it on Netflix, because if you make a film that people can't ignore, that it is so good, it is so gripping, it is so interesting, so helpful that people have to watch it, it's going to do the work for you. You're not going to have to worry about it. If your film's okay, if your film's pretty good, then you're going to have to let networking do the legwork. You're going to have to like reach out to as many people as you can. You're going to have to find producers, executive producers. A lot of times you're not going to be able to, I would say probably most of the time, you're not going to be able to actually contact Netflix. You're not going to call them up or find somebody's email. They are not going to listen to you. Even the context that you might get at Netflix once you've been with them for a while, it's like, what have you done lately, right? It's like, are you making great shit now? So even though we have connections there, it's not like I can just email them up and be like, hey, I got this shitty documentary. I got this okay documentary. They would not upload it. They have very high standards. Make it amazing. And then find the middleman, which is like probably an executive who would eventually become an executive producer, somebody who has connections in the industry. So don't worry about Netflix, because it could be Hulu, it could be Amazon Prime. There's a lot of options. And if you haven't had your film anywhere, putting it on any of these platforms is a huge win. So find that person that can help make the connection and help to get your film sold. Don't waste your time going to too many film festivals. Submit to a couple film festivals, but just the big ones, South by Southwest, Toronto, whatever, you know. Don't overthink it, but like maybe just do 5 film festivals, because if it is good enough and they get seen, then you know you're working your way into the industry if it gets selected at a big film festival. So that's one thing. But yeah, no, just make good shit. All right, let's do a couple more questions here. Lubio Yaniv. My question is, as a filmmaker, how do you start getting higher paid projects? Okay, higher paid projects. You want to start charging more for the same quality work. And that's true. That's really what you're looking to do, which there is nothing wrong with that, because I would say you're probably undercharging as it is. You're probably getting ripped off for the videos that you're currently making. And there's no more important thing for you to do as a freelance filmmaker than to increase your rates. Because when you go from $500 for a video to $5,000 for the same video, oh my God. Think about you have to do so much less work to make the same amount of money. It's crazy. But then you can also put more energy into that video. You can actually make it better. But that is so important. And then to take $5,000 to $25,000, holy shit. And then you look at that compared to when you were doing videos for $500 per video, and you wonder how the hell you got by. And the thing is that it's great to have a lower rate when you're just getting started out, because then you're going to get more work, and you're not going to be able to work with big brands or companies very early on when you're just getting, your feet underneath you. So But then once you're able to build up to that $25,000 level, it makes your life so much easier. And what you'll find is that those clients actually are more forgiving. They give you more control. They're not standing over your shoulder as you're filming everything. They hired you. They paid a lot of money, usually as a company, to pay for your work and your eye and your expertise. And so they usually just let you do your thing, which is amazing. So how do you get higher paid projects? This goes back to my previous statement about making sure your life is in order, making sure you've made the right decisions and you've taken some short-term sacrifice so then you can take some risks, because that's really what it takes. It takes risks. You need to start saying, hey, my rate's now $2,000. You if you want to keep old clients, that's fine. And then every new client that you can up your rates. I never felt very comfortable increasing my rates with a current client. I've certainly done that before, and I've negotiated retainers. That's a little bit different. A retainer rate every year. It's like, hey, prices are going up a little bit because I'm more in demand. It's a little bit difficult when a client's giving you a lot of work, but with the new clients that come in, you need to charge more money. Here's some practical advice. Never tell them your rate over the phone. If somebody says like, hey, so how much is this video going to cost? When you're like talking about the project, you know what? Let me think about that. I'm going to run some numbers and then I'll send you an estimate via email. Now you're not saying over the phone, $5,000, but like if that doesn't work, then that's cool. Like I can work with you. You're going to it's going to be heard in your voice that you're not very confident about that price. And you also want to make sure you don't make a mistake, that you don't promise a price that you can't actually guarantee. So take a moment after the phone call, put it in an estimate. Another bit of advice is maybe if you're willing to put in the time, create a proposal. You can use a website like Canva. I think it's canva.com, which like helps you to build these kind of beautiful presentation, and you build one of them out and then you can just like use it as a template for future ones. So then you can give them different tiers. You can give them option A, B, and C, and you can give them different value based upon how much money they're willing to spend. Now, obviously the first tier might be $2,000, then $5,000, then $10,000. Every once in a while, most of the time they're going to go with that middle option. It's usually, if you're doing it right, they're probably going to go with that middle one, which is great because that's a lot more than you probably were going to be getting before. Then if they can't afford the middle option, then then you have that safety and security of not losing that client. If they can't afford that lower option, then you don't want to work with them anyway. But then every once in a while, you're going to get 10% of people, 20% of people that go for that very expensive option. They want everything. They want every video you could make for them, and that's going to make you a lot more money. So those are some strategies. Understand that there's always going to be a little bit of a risk. Every time you're dealing with a client, every time they come for you for work, you risk losing their potential work. But that's part of the game. That's why we do this. Yeah. But anyway, I think that's pretty good. That's a good place to leave off. We got questions on minimalism. We got questions on filmmaking and cell phone addiction. We talked about the penguin suit. Man, what more could you ask for in an AMA? This was cool. This was the first AMA episode, podcast episode. I wonder if I should come up with a name. For now, it's just called The Secret Podcast. But this is cool, and I'm excited to do more of these. Like I said, going to be doing at least one a month. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon.